Good evening, everybody. Oh, shall I take my glasses off? It'll be a bit better, I think, perhaps. Well, I've had quite a busy day today. In fact, after I spoke to you yesterday, I had a phone call from a friend who used to be my neighbour when I lived on my own in a little house in outside Horsham, wasn't it? She was my neighbour across the road. She'd come down from Bath, actually. Her husband came to work in Horsham, and while I was there for a couple of years before I met my husband, she and I used to get on quite well. She moved then to another house the other side of Horsham, and then moved away about 10 years ago down to Wiltshire, where she's been ever since. And I don't think I've spoken to her since I've moved here. So it's been quite a long time. I get Christmas cards from her, but never anything else, and I don't have a phone number. But then all of a sudden, out of the blue, I got a message on the aunt's phone to say that she'd rung and she'd ring back, and I missed the call, and I was so upset because it's lovely to hear from her. But yesterday afternoon, just as I'd got my welly boots on, coat, hat, dogs on the leads, just about to go out the door, and the phone rang, and I thought, oh. I'd had 2 or 3 calls in the last half an hour for selling me washing machine insurance. In fact, I'd had a call asking did I want to buy, was I interested in buying a funeral plan. But it was a couple of minutes later and the phone rang again. I thought, oh, who's this now? Luckily, I looked at the screen and it didn't say call holding or whatever it is. It said something different, and I thought, oh, I wonder who this is. I wonder if it's perhaps the doctors or something. So I answered it, and this voice said, hello there. Oh, I said, no, it's lovely to speak to you. So we were an hour. There's me sitting in the hall, all togged up, dogs on the leads. They began to wonder what was happening. They were all they were on their leads waiting while we had a long chat for an hour. It was lovely to hear from her. Told me all about her life, and she gave me a telephone number, so I now can phone her. She said keep in touch. We'll keep in touch now, so it's lovely to hear from her. So that was a real boost yesterday. And today got up, went to collect my friend's 2 dogs because she was going to be really busy today because her mother was arriving, and she asked me if I'd take her dogs for a walk. So I went to collect them. It had been raining, but it wasn't when I went out, so I got them in the car and took them up to my lovely walk. And it's nice for them because they're little Scotties, and they can have a good run, but they don't get muddy. They'll be wet, but they don't get muddy. So we started off on a walk, and then I could see coming across the downs the rain, and I thought, oh no. And within 10 minutes, it was throwing it down. So we managed. I thought, well, the thing is, if I get into the woods, it won't be as bad, but it's going to be really muddy and slippery. So I chose a different section to go in, and we went through nice and slowly. And the boys, they all enjoyed having a sniff round all different parts. We came out the other end when I noticed that I could see through that the rain wasn't as bad and it was beginning to go over. So we came out the other end, walked round the field a couple of times, and then got them in the car. But they were wet, I'm afraid. I then thought, well, I'm down here, I'll go and get my petrol. So I went down and got my petrol for the weekend and picked up some couple of lots of fruit that I needed and some milk, and trudged home, took them back to her and apologised for the fact that her dogs were soaking wet. So I said, I don't think they're muddy, but I think they're soaking wet. So took them home, and I had said that if she needed me, her husband was going to pick up her mum today at lunchtime, and I said if he wasn't well enough to give me a ring. Well, as soon as I got in, there was a little phone call, and she said husband wasn't feeling up to it. If I, did I mean it? And when I go and collect her mum, it would be she'd feel a lot happier without her husband, who wasn't feeling too good. So I said, yeah, that's fine. So she said, oh, could you come along about 1:30? So I had an early lunch, when I got home, I had to dry my boys and give them the hair dry because it was so wet, and hang up the wet coat in the shower again to drip dry, and I put a wash on, and then the sun came out, so I put all my, I hadn't got a lot, but I put my washing on, put washing out the line. I thought, well, it might have a bit of a dry before I have to hang it indoors wet. At least it wasn't going to be wet, too wet. So I went along 1:30, had an early lunch, some soup, and went along about 1:30, and picked her up, and then we went over and picked her mum up, and all her bags, a little suitcase and bags of shopping and a few presents and things, and she said to me, "I'm really grateful to you for coming and getting me." I said, "Oh, that's okay." In fact, the traffic was really good. I thought it was going to be horrendous at that time, having to cross through town, but it was pretty good. And coming back, it was even better. So I don't know whether they'd all gone home for lunch. So we did really well, and I got her back just as I was getting her up the path, it started to rain. So we got back nice and easy. And my friend said, "Oh, come in and have a cup of tea with us." I said, No, you get your mum settled. I'll get home. I want to just wait for this shower to go over before it gets dark. It'll be dark early today. And get my boys out. So I got home, got myself all togged up and took them out quickly. And as luck could have it, as soon as we got into the field, it was raining. So we just managed to go round it once quickly. I came home and got another coat hanging up to dry. Got them dried off, and then within a few minutes, the phone rang, and it was my friend from down on the coast who was going to go. Supposed to be going off to her son's in Bath, and then going up to her other son in London. And I said, "Oh, where are you?" "Oh," she said, "I'm not going." She said, "It's it was just too difficult to try and organise to go up to Bath." And she said, I can't go into London, of course, now. So, and she said I wasn't going to see my friend or my family. So she said, "I've just decided, forget it. I'll stay at home Christmas Day." She said, "I've just been out and got some shopping. I should be at home on my own Christmas Day." She said, "We'll do Zooming and all that with the family." So I said, oh dear, that's a shame. So she said, "Well, it has to be. I can't get there." She said they did say that I could go up for the day, Christmas Day, but she said it means I've got to leave early to come home. She said, "If I've got to leave about 2 to come home so that I can get home before it's dark." And she said, "What's the point?" So she said, "I decided no, we won't worry about it." So I said, "Oh, that's a shame." So we had a long conversation about that, and I then what did I do after she rang? I started to get my dinner ready. I thought I'd better start getting the dinner ready, fed the boys, and then I thought, well, it's a bit early, I'll have a cup of tea, sat down, phone rang, and it was an old friend of mine that I used to sing with, and she used to ring up to see how I was, and asking me what I was doing for Christmas. So I said I was going out to my daughter, so she said, "Oh, that's fine." I said, "Are you having your family down?" She said, "Well, we've got my son, he came down from London a few days ago." She said, "But my daughter's working up until Christmas Eve, and she goes back Boxing Day, so she won't be able to come down. She's back up in the hospital on Boxing Day, and she won't be able to come down. It's staffed her coming down just for the day, because she's got to be gone early to get to bed early, to be up early." So she said she's got a housemate, so they're going to cook Christmas Day. She won't be on her own, so she's going to cook. So she said it'd be rather good for her to do a Christmas dinner. So we had a laugh about that. So that was nice to hear from her. Had a long chat, and then I went and did my dinner. And I now thought, right, well, I'll do this little bit of video. Oh yes, I put a little video of the robin in the garden this morning. I decided to empty my Hoover bag, and I was sitting out there, and he came to the fence, and he was chirruping away. He kept on singing. It was beautiful. I kept chatting to him while I was working, And I've got two that come to the garden. I was wondering if he was chatting to the other one, but I couldn't find that one or her. Couldn't see her anywhere. So when I went to get the video and started videoing him, he stopped the singing. He did do it a couple of times, but when I was out there with the Hoover bag, he didn't stop. It was beautiful. I always sort of talked to him as though it was my mum. So I just love the robins. I've got two that come to the garden each day. And two pigeons, two big pigeons. I had a pigeon some years ago nest in my tree and produce some eggs, which she sat on and they sat on for some days, weeks. And I have these two pigeons come back, which I think are the babies. I think one of them's one of the babies. I don't know about the other one, but I know he comes back because he's not frightened of the dogs. He sort of had to learn to live with them for a while. And he comes back and he feeds every morning. He brings this other one back. There might be his mate. But then I sometimes think I wonder if it's his brother or his sister who brings them back. And they have a little feed up. Sit up in the big weeping willow tree next door until I put the seed out. Or the bread. Sometimes I mix it with a bit of breadcrumbs, and they come down and feed. Dogs go mad, but they don't bother. They feed for a bit and then they fly off. But I always have my robins come. So I love the robins. I'm very partial to them. So that's about it. So Christmas Eve tomorrow, everybody. All exciting. I'll speak to you then. Going up to my daughter's. So I'm going to pack the car up. I did clean it out today because I was taking my friend's mother, so I had to clean it out. So that's all done for Christmas. I'll be start packing up in the morning. So I'll speak to you tomorrow. So happy days. Christmas nearly here. All exciting. Good evening.